do we say the Pledge of Allegiance?
Why does the American flag have stars and stripes?
Why do we have fireworks on the 4th of July?
Did you ever wonder about those things? Well, that's what this program is all about. We're going to take a look at the symbols and ceremonies that are important to Americans and find out where they came from. Let's start with perhaps the most recognized symbol of our country, the flag of the United States of America. When you think of America, you think of the flag. Of course, we all know what the flag looks like. But why is it red, white, and blue? And why stars and stripes? To answer those questions, we have to travel back to colonial times, before 1776, when the 13 colonies that would become the United States of America belonged to England. Each colony was separate and independent, but they all had complaints about King George III and the government in England. The colonists wanted more of a say in how they were governed, and the English wanted to keep control. The king sent troops to keep order, but the situation got more and more hostile. And finally, in April 1775, a small band of colonial militiamen faced an army of British redcoats at Lexington in Massachusetts. A month later, representatives from all the colonies met in Philadelphia. Even though not all the delegates wanted to declare independence from England, most everyone agreed with John Adams of Massachusetts that there should be one American army made up of soldiers from all the colonies. So Congress created the Grand American Army. As commander-in-chief, they chose George Washington of Virginia. General Washington and a congressional committee led by Benjamin Franklin of Pennsylvania decided the Army needed a flag to represent all the colonies. The flag they designed was called the Grand Union, or Continental Colors. Like the flag of England, the Grand Union was red, white, and blue. It had 13 stripes, one for each of the 13 colonies. The English flag, the Union Jack, was placed up in the left-hand corner to show the relationship between the colonies and England. You see, that's what the American rebels were fighting for, their rights as Englishmen. There were other flags besides the Grand Union. One just had 13 red and white stripes, while another used the stripes and added a snake with the words, "Don't tread on me," to show the defiance of the rebellious colonials. On the 4th of July, 1776, the American colonies declared their independence from England. Now, the new country needed a flag of its own, a flag that would be a symbol of liberty and freedom. It took almost a year for the Continental Congress to pass a resolution creating the flag. Finally, on June 14th, 1777, Congress declared,
"The flag of the United States be 13 stripes, alternate red and white, that the Union be 13 stars, white in a blue field, representing a new constellation."
But why did they choose stars and stripes as symbols for the flag? Well, no one knows for sure. George Washington is said to have offered this explanation.
"We take the stars from heaven, the red from our mother country, separating it by white stripes, thus showing that we have separated from her. And the white stripe shall go down to posterity, representing liberty."
Congress may have declared that the symbols would be stars and stripes, but they never said how those symbols were supposed to be arranged. So there was this flag, and there was this flag, and then there was this flag. Who made the first flag? Well, tradition says it was Betsy Ross. She is supposed to have made it in June of 1776 for a secret group led by General Washington. But in fact, no one knows if the story is true. What we do know is that the flag became a symbol of the new nation, and as the nation grew and new states were added, the flag changed. As a matter of fact, there have been 27 different versions of the flag throughout our country's history. In the beginning, it was decided that every time a new state entered the Union, the flag would get another stripe and another star. So in 1795, when Vermont and Kentucky became states, that's what happened. Then, in 1818, 5 new states entered the Union. That meant that there would be 20 stripes and 20 stars. And the flag could handle more stars, but more stripes? They'd have to get thinner and thinner. So Congress declared that a star would be added for every new state. But the flag would always have 13 stripes, one for each of the original colonies. The flag we salute today was adopted in 1959 when Hawaii became the nation's 50th state. It flies proudly over government buildings, schools, public places, private companies, and homes all over the country. It's displayed in parades and in art. The flag even flies on the moon. The flag also has its own special day, Flag Day, June 14th, to celebrate that day in 1777 that the flag became the country's official symbol. Everyone knows the Pledge of Allegiance. It just goes along with the flag. But did you know that the pledge wasn't even written until the flag was more than 100 years old? Here's the story. The Pledge of Allegiance first appeared in 1892 in a children's magazine called The Youth's Companion. Francis Bellamy, who worked for the magazine, wrote the pledge as part of a special celebration for the 400th anniversary of the voyage of Christopher Columbus. That year, on Columbus Day, more than 12 million school children across the country recited what was called the Youth's Companion Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to my flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's not exactly the same pledge we say today. Since 1892, there have been 2 changes. The first came in 1923, when a committee of veterans decided to change the words, "my flag," to "the flag of the United States of America." The other change came in 1954 when a congressman proposed adding the words, "under God." He got the idea because in the Gettysburg Address, Abraham Lincoln had called the United States one nation under God. There are only 31 words in the pledge, but some of them are very long and difficult. So let's go through it. I pledge allegiance to the flag. The word pledge means promise. Allegiance means to be loyal. Of the United States of America. Well, that's not so hard. And to the republic. Republic is the kind of government we have where representatives are elected by the people, for which it stands. One nation, under God, indivisible. Indivisible means it can't be divided. With liberty and justice for all. Liberty means freedom, and justice means fairness. So this is what the Pledge of Allegiance really means. I promise to be loyal to the flag and the kind of government that it represents. One nation that can't be divided, with freedom and fairness for everyone. The Pledge of Allegiance was officially adopted in 1942. It's not a law that you have to say the pledge, but all across America, every morning, that's how many students begin the day.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You know what this is. It's a dollar bill. And you know who this is. George Washington, of course. But I bet you don't know what's on the back. These 2 circles show both sides of the Great Seal of the United States. Kind of strange looking, isn't it? But each element has a special meaning. Let's look at them one by one. The first thing you probably notice is our national bird, the eagle, one of America's best-known symbols. Throughout history, the eagle has been a symbol of independence, freedom, and strength. But it took 6 years of arguing for Congress to finally decide on the eagle as the national bird. That's because Benjamin Franklin wanted a turkey instead. He said,
"The turkey is a much more respectable bird, and withal a true original native of America.
But eventually, the eagle won out. This is a picture of the first die of the Great Seal of the United States made in 1782. There have been a few changes since then, but the same elements are still there. In the eagle's right talons is an olive branch, a symbol of peace, with 13 leaves and 13 berries. 13, of course, for the original 13 colonies. In the left talon, there are 13 arrows. The arrows are a symbol of war and show a willingness to defend American ideals. On the chest of the eagle is a shield with 13 red and white stripes. In the eagle's beak is a banner with the Latin words, E pluribus unum. That's our national motto, and it means, out of many, one, to symbolize the fact that 13 independent colonies joined together to form one nation. Above the eagle is a field with 13 stars surrounded by bright rays breaking through clouds. The constellation of stars represents a new nation taking its place among other independent nations. Now let's look at the other side of the seal. The most notable thing here is the unfinished pyramid. It has 13 layers of stone representing the 13 original states. It was left unfinished so there would be room for the new states that would one day join the Union. Above the pyramid is the all-seeing eye, showing that the spiritual is above the material. Above that is the Latin motto, Annuit Coeptis, which means he has favored our undertaking. On the base of the pyramid are the Roman numerals for 1776, the year of independence, and below that are more Latin words, Novus Ordo Seclorum, which means a new order of the ages. And that's what the United States was, because in 1776, there was no other country like it. Today, the Great Seal is used on important government papers, medals, and documents. It is a proud symbol of American independence and strength. Here's a face you probably recognize. Uncle Sam. I bet you didn't know that Uncle Sam was named after a real person, Samuel Wilson. He was born in 1766, and he was a friendly kind of guy. Many people really called him Uncle Sam. During the War of 1812, Uncle Sam Wilson supplied meat to the American soldiers. He would stamp the letters U.S. on the sides of meat, meaning that it was for the United States. Soldiers seeing the U.S. stamp said it was from Uncle Sam, and that they were Uncle Sam's soldiers. The idea just caught on. But why does Uncle Sam wear striped pants and a tall top hat? Well, back during the Revolutionary War, colonial soldiers were referred to by the British as Yankee Doodles and Brother Jonathans. Yankee Doodle was a backwards country boy who put a feather in his hat and pretended he was rich and fancy. Brother Jonathan was another simple country boy who wore striped pants, a coat with tails, and a top hat. The British meant both characters to be insults, but the Americans turned them around and used them as proud symbols. Yankee Doodle, as we know, became a popular patriotic song. And over time, Brother Jonathan evolved into the lovable old man who became a symbol for our nation, Uncle Sam. What do you do on the 4th of July? Have a picnic? Watch a parade? See fireworks? Did you ever realize that the 4th of July is really one huge national birthday party? Well, that's what it is. On the 4th of July, we celebrate the birth of the United States, the day in 1776 when the 13 American colonies issued the Declaration of Independence. The decision to separate from England wasn't an easy one. The colonists really tried to settle their differences with the king. In 1775, the Second Continental Congress even sent George III a petition. They called it the Olive Branch Petition. Remember, the olive branch was a symbol of peace. But the king refused to read it. By June of 1776, Richard Henry Lee of Virginia spoke for many of the delegates.
These united colonies are, and of right ought to be free and independent states.
So Congress created a committee to write the statement, a Declaration of Independence. On the committee were John Adams of Massachusetts, Benjamin Franklin of Pennsylvania, Roger Sherman of Connecticut, Robert Livingston of New York, and Thomas Jefferson of Virginia. But who would actually write the document? After much discussion, it was decided that there was only one man for the job, Thomas Jefferson. It took Jefferson 2 days to write the Declaration. It outlined clearly why the colonies were taking the action and listed all the grievances the Americans had against England and the king. Congress debated Jefferson's declaration for 3 days. They made a few changes, but finally agreed to sign it. The first signer was John Hancock of Massachusetts, who wrote his name so large that he said the king would be able to read it without his glasses. And to this day, your signature is often called your John Hancock. As soon as the Declaration of Independence was approved and signed, bells rang out and people gathered to celebrate. The next year, 1777, cannons boomed, soldiers paraded, and fireworks lit up the skies. And that's been going on every 4th of July since then. The United States of America also has a national song, or anthem. It's called the StarSpangled Banner. Who wrote the StarSpangled Banner, and why? During the War of 1812, Baltimore, Maryland faced almost certain attack by British forces. Fort McHenry guarded the entrance to the harbor, and the commander of Fort McHenry had a large flag made to fly over the fort so the enemy would be sure to see it. The flag was huge. Sure enough, the British attacked. It began on the morning of September 13th, 1814, and continued through the stormy night. Anxiously awaiting news of the battle's outcome was Francis Scott Key, a lawyer who was negotiating the release of an American being held captive on a British ship. At dawn the next day, he looked through a telescope to see the large flag still flying. In his excitement, he began to write a poem he called The Defense of Fort McHenry. It began with the words, "Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light." The poem was published a few days later in the newspaper The Baltimore Patriot. Almost immediately, the title was changed to the Star-Spangled Banner. Everyone liked the poem so much, it was set to the music of a popular song. But it wasn't until 1931 that Congress made the Star-Spangled Banner our national anthem. But years before that, the Star-Spangled Banner became a part of baseball. It started in 1918 during the First World War. The World Series that year was played between the Chicago Cubs and the Boston Red Sox. To show support for the American troops, the band played the Star-Spangled Banner during the 7th inning stretch of the first game. Here's how the New York Times described what happened next.
Heads were bared as the ball players turned quickly about and faced the music. First, the song was taken up by a few, then others joined in. When the final notes came, a great volume of medley rolled across the field. It was at the very end that the onlookers exploded into thunderous applause and rent the air with a cheer that marked the highest point of today's enthusiasm.
The Star-Spangled Banner was played at every game of the World Series that year, just like it's played at every game today. The Statue of Liberty isn't only a symbol of America, it's a symbol of freedom for people all over the world. Sometimes it's called Lady Liberty or Miss Liberty, but the official name is Liberty Enlightening the World. The statue was designed by Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi, a French sculptor. It was a gift from France to the United States to celebrate the 100th anniversary of American independence. But the entire statue wasn't finished in time for the celebration. So Bartholdi sent over the arm and the torch to show people what the statue would look like. It wasn't unusual that the statue representing liberty would be of a woman. From the time of the first colonial settlements in the 1600s, one of the most widely used symbols of the New World was an Indian princess. Most probably, the idea for an Indian princess came from Pocahontas. She helped the early colonists at Jamestown in Virginia. You can find another example of a woman used as a symbol of liberty in Washington, D.C. The statue is called Freedom, and she stands on top of the dome of the United States Capitol. The Statue of Liberty was dedicated in 1886. Because of its massive size, it stands 151 feet tall. It was sent to America in 214 crates. Then it was reconstructed on Bedloes Island in New York Harbor. At the time, it wasn't only the largest statue ever built, it was the largest structure anywhere in the world. The Statue of Liberty is no longer the world's largest statue, but it is perhaps the best known, a symbol of freedom for people everywhere. On the base of the statue is a poem that has also become a symbol of freedom and liberty. It was written by Emma Lazarus to celebrate the idea of America as a great melting pot, a place where people from different countries and different cultures can come together to form one nation.
Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door.
There you have it, the stories behind some of the symbols and ceremonies of the United States of America. Now you know the next time you see a flag, say the Pledge of Allegiance, or sing the national anthem, what they mean and how they came to be.